The Fiat 127 is a landmark car in automotive history, often credited as the template for the modern front-wheel drive supermini. Its story is one of brilliant innovation, massive commercial success, and a long, slow decline. Here is a detailed history of the Fiat 127. The predecessor setting the stage. In the early 1960s, Fiat's small car offering was the Fiat 600 and its larger derivative, the Fiat 850. These were rear-engined, rear-wheel drive cars that were incredibly successful but were becoming outdated in terms of packaging and design. Fiat recognized the need for a new, more modern small car. The concept that would become the 127 was developed under the internal project code, Project X14. The goal was revolutionary, to create a car that was small on the outside but maximized interior space, using a then unconventional layout for a small car, a transverse front-engine, front-wheel drive configuration. The Fiat 127 was unveiled at the Turin Motor Show in April 1971. It was an instant sensation and a game-changer. Key design and engineering features. It used a transversely mounted engine driving the front wheels, a layout popularized by the Mini and the Autobianchi Primula, which was engineered by Fiat's Dante Giacosa. This eliminated the transmission tunnel, freeing up vast amounts of interior space. It was one of the first small cars to feature practical three-door hatchback body style as standard, making it incredibly versatile. The two-box design became the blueprint for almost every small car that followed. It borrowed and refined components from existing Fiat parts bins. The engine was a 903cc overhead valve straight four-cylinder engine derived from the Fiat 850, producing 47 horsepower. It was mounted atop the gearbox in what is known as an end-on configuration. At just 3.59 meters or 11.8 feet long, it offered surprising interior space for 4 adults, with a useful and accessible luggage compartment. The 127's production life can be broken down into several key phases. First series, from 1971 to 1977. The original 3-door hatchback, a 1-liter engine, was introduced in some markets to replace the 903cc unit. Extremely Spartan and basic, but incredibly effective, its success was immediate and overwhelming. Second series, from 1977 to 1981, the major facelift. This was a significant visual and mechanical update. Restyled body, a new front end with square rather than round headlights and a new plastic grille. The rear received larger light clusters. The old overhead valve engine was replaced by a new, more modern 1049cc overhead cam engine, producing 50 horsepower. A redesigned dashboard and better soundproofing. The 127 Sport was launched with a 1.3-liter engine, 70 horsepower, featuring a more aggressive look and improved performance. Third series, from 1982 to 1983, this was the final update. A minor facelift with new black plastic bumpers to meet safety regulations and a slightly revised grille. By this time, it was beginning to show its age against newer competitors. Variants and special models were also made available. Fiat 127 Panorama is a 3-door station wagon or estate version with a more vertical rear end, offering even more cargo space. It was very popular in utilitarian roles. Fiat 127 Sport was the performance version, a genuine hot hatch precursor. Seat 127. The Spanish subsidiary Seat produced the 127 under license and developed its own unique versions, including a 5-door hatchback and a sedan known as the Familia, which were never made by Fiat in Italy. Seat continued production until 1984. The Fiat 127's impact cannot be overstated. It was a massive sales hit. In 1973, Just 2 years after launch, it became the best-selling car in Europe. Over 5 million units were produced across Europe, including Seat and Polish FSO production, between 1971 and 1983. It won the prestigious European Car of the Year award in the year 1972, confirming its innovative status. It effectively defined the supermini segment B-segment in Europe. Cars like the Volkswagen Polo, Ford Fiesta, and Renault 5 were all developed as direct responses to the 127's success. Its front-wheel drive, transverse engine, hatchback layout became the universal standard for small cars for decades to come. By the early 1980s, the 127 was facing intense competition. Its replacement was the Fiat Uno, launched in 1983. The Uno was another revolutionary design, also winning Car of the Year, that took the supermini concept to a new level of modernity and efficiency. Production of the 127 in Italy ended in 1983, though it continued in other countries like South America for several more years. The Fiat 127 is a true icon. It wasn't the first front-wheel drive car, but it was the one that perfectly packaged and popularized the concept for the mass market. It democratized practical, spacious, and economical motoring for millions of Europeans and set a template that the entire industry would follow. It stands as one of the most important and influential cars of the 20th century. The 127 was a true world car, built and adapted across the globe. Seat was Fiat's primary partner at the time and produced the 127 extensively. They developed unique body styles never seen in Italy, a 5-door hatchback and a 3-door sedan called Familia. The 5-door was particularly significant as it predated similar versions from other manufacturers. Seat also created its own hot hatch, the Seat 127 Cupra, with the 1.3-liter engine and aggressive styling. Production continued until 1984 when the Seat Ibiza, which still used many 127 and Ritmo parts, replaced it. The 127 was produced under license by FSO in Poland from 1973 to 1975 as the Polski Fiat 127P. Due to the complexities of the planned economy, only about 5,000 were built before FSO decided to focus on the 126P, which was cheaper and simpler to produce. In Brazil, production started in 1973 and continued all the way until 1995. The Brazilian 127 evolved independently. It was sold as the Fiat 127 and later the Fiat Miura Sport version and Fiat Scout. It received numerous facelifts, including a completely new front end in the 1980s that made it look like a shrunken Fiat Regatta. A pickup truck version, the Fiat City, was also produced. In Argentina, locally produced until 1997 with its own unique trim levels and adaptations. The Fiat 127 was a giant killer in the world of rallying, particularly in its native Italy. 127 Sport in rallying. Its lightweight, around 730 kg, and from 1977, the potent 75 HP 1.3-liter engine made it a perfect candidate for Group 1, production touring cars, and later Group 2 rallying. It achieved numerous class wins in major international rallies, including the Sanremo Rally and the Rally dei Fiori. Its front-wheel drive layout provided excellent traction on twisty, mountainous stages. Abarth and other tuners prepared highly modified 127s for competition, with engines tuned to produce over 100 HP, widened wheel arches, and stripped-out interiors. These cars were incredibly agile and competitive, cementing the 127's reputation as a pocket rocket. In Italy, the 127 Panorama became the quintessential vehicle for small businesses, the perfect van for artisans, florists, and delivery drivers. Its ruggedness and vast cargo space for its size were legendary. The 127's designer, Pio Manzu, son of the famous sculptor Giacomo Manzu, was a genius of packaging. Tragically, he died in a car accident in 1969 before the 127 was launched. The car stands as one of his greatest legacies. The Fiat Uno, 1983, was such a monumental leap forward that it instantly made the 127 look antiquated. However, many of the Uno's core principles, maximizing interior space in a small footprint, were direct evolutions of the philosophy pioneered by the 127. The Fiat 127 is far more than just an old car. It was a paradigm shift on wheels. It took a revolutionary mechanical layout and made it mainstream, reliable, and affordable. Its story spans from the factory floors of Turin to the rally stages of the Alps and the bustling streets of Sao Paulo, a testament to its brilliant, timeless design and incredible versatility. While Alec Issigonis invented the transverse front-wheel drive layout for the Mini, and Dante Giacosa pioneered its use for Fiat in the Autobianchi Primula, the Fiat 127 is where the format was perfected for mass production and ease of service. The engine was mounted directly above the gearbox, with the crankshaft parallel to the front axle. This was a more compact and lighter solution than the Primula's sideways engine that drove the gearbox via a chain. The 4-speed gearbox was renowned for its light, precise, and positive shift action. It became a Fiat staple, used in the 128, X19, and later models, and was so well regarded. At the front, independent MacPherson struts were used, which were advanced for a small car and provided excellent packaging. At the rear, the car used a dead axle with a panhard rod, located by leaf springs. This was a simple, cost-effective, and robust solution. While not as sophisticated as independent rear suspension, it was well-tuned, and combined with the car's light weight, gave the 127 its famous nimble and tossable handling character. Like all popular cars, the 127 was subject to many special editions, particularly in its later years and in specific markets. These often had fancy names and extra trim to boost sales. Examples include the 127 Soul, Sun, with a sunroof and special graphics, or the 127 Racing, with sporty stripes and alloy wheels. The car was a ubiquitous background character in 1970s and early 80s Italian films, especially in the commedia all'italiana genre, representing the average middle-class family. It featured prominently in the early Italian police TV series La Piovra, The Octopus, as an unmarked detective car, cementing its image as a humble workhorse vehicle. Why it ultimately faded. By the early 1980s, the 127's flaws became more apparent against new arrivals. Rust was a terminal issue. Many 127s simply dissolved away long before their mechanicals wore out. It was designed in an era with little regard for crash safety. The body structure was not as rigid as newer designs like the Ford Fiesta or Volkswagen Polo. The rear suspension and basic interior became noisy and unrefined by modern standards. The Fiat 127 wasn't just a successful car, it was a philosophy made of metal. It demonstrated that a small car did not have to be a compromise. It could be spacious for its footprint, practical with its hatchback, economical to run, fun to drive, simple to manufacture and repair. Every modern supermini, from the Volkswagen Polo to the Ford Fiesta, Hyundai i20, and Peugeot 208, follows the template that the Fiat 127 defined and proved on a massive scale. It was the car that brought the future to the present for millions of ordinary people, and for that, it remains one of the most significant automobiles of the 20th century. Starting a 127 was a sensory experience. The distinct, throaty rasp of the small engine, the smell of warm vinyl and faint petrol from the carburetor, and the thin, tactile feel of the plastic steering wheel. It was a car that engaged all your senses, not just your sight. The steering was unassisted, providing direct, unfiltered communication with the road. You felt every bump and ripple, but this also meant you had perfect feel for the grip. Throwing it into a corner was a joy. The lightweight body would lean slightly, the front tires would bite, and it would dart through with an eagerness that modern, heavier cars lack. The heating and ventilation system was notoriously basic. The heater fan was often compared to a hairdryer on its lowest setting, and demisting the windows on a cold, rainy day was a test of patience and optimism. Many 127s featured a starter button on the dashboard, in addition to or sometimes instead of using the key. This was a quirky holdover from Italian automotive design that felt both old-fashioned and charmingly sporty. Owners developed a sixth sense for rust. They knew to check the sills, the door bottoms, the front valance, and the infamous jack points, which would often disappear into a pile of orange dust, leaving the car perilously balanced during a tire change. Electrics were simple, but could be temperamental. A flickering gauge backlight or a wiper motor that worked only on one speed was part of the car's character, a puzzle to be solved with a bit of electrical tape and a prayer. While its rally success is well documented, the 127's racing career was even more diverse. In Italy, one-make championships for the 127 Sport were incredibly popular. These series provided a cheap and competitive entry into motorsport for thousands of aspiring drivers. Seeing a grid of dozens of nearly identical, screaming 127s battling wheel-to-wheel was a spectacle of Italian motorsport in the late 70s and early 80s. In the UK, modified 127s were entered into saloon car races against seemingly more powerful opponents like Mini Coopers and Ford Escorts. Their lightweight and agile handling allowed them to punch far above their weight, often embarrassing more powerful machinery on tight circuits. In the 1980s, the Brazilian 127 received a dramatic and unique restyle. The front end was completely new, with rectangular headlights and a grille that made it look like a miniature Fiat Regatta. This version is a fascinating, alternate evolution of the 127 that is completely unknown in Europe. The Brazilian pickup version, initially called Scort and later City, had a ridiculously small cargo bed, but was a huge success as a cheap, runabout commercial vehicle. Its front half was pure 127, making it one of the smallest front-wheel drive pickups ever made. Seat 127 Especial had a specific trim level that often featured wild 1970s patterned cloth seats and unique color options. The seat-developed five-door hatchback was a crucial model. It proved there was a massive market for more practical superminis, directly influencing Fiat's own decision to create a five-door version of the Uno. In many ways, Seat was the innovation lab for the 127 platform. In Italy, the 127 earned the affectionate nickname Il Macchinino. This word translates to the little grinder or the little coffee mill. The nickname was a testament to its character. The sound, the distinctive, buzzing, mechanical rattle of its engine was reminiscent of a coffee grinder in action. The reliability, like a simple, well-made coffee mill, it was a tool that, despite its simplicity, kept working day in and day out. The ubiquity, it was an essential, everyday object in Italian life, as common in a household as a coffee maker. This nickname encapsulates the Italian relationship with the car. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was a familiar, dependable, and slightly noisy companion for life's daily grind. In the end, the Fiat 127 is more than a list of specs and production dates. It is the sound of a buzzing engine on a narrow Italian street, the sight of a panorama loaded with vegetables at a market, the feeling of a precise gear change snapping into place. It was a machine with a soul, a character, and a story woven into the fabric of an entire continent. It wasn't just a car you owned, it was a car you experienced. That is all we have for you in this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more automotive content. We love hearing from you, so drop your thoughts or questions in the comments below. If you have any suggestions for future topics, let us know. Until next time, drive safe and keep exploring the roads of automotive history.